Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the place where we try to take those complex, sometimes pretty uncomfortable parts of life and give you a clearer blueprint, a way to navigate them more effectively.
Exactly. And today's topic, oh boy, it's a big one.
It really is. If there's one struggle that just seems to sneak up on, well, pretty much everyone, the minute you leave that structured world of college or even high school, it's adult friendship.
It truly is. It's like the great unacknowledged stressor of modern life, isn't it?
Fully.
We talk endlessly about dating, right? We become experts at navigating career ladders, promotions, office politics.
Oh, yeah.
But we hardly ever have the right words for that slow, kind of sinking feeling you get when you look around and realize those really solid connections, the ones you just assumed would always be there from your teens and early 20s, they've just sort of dissolved.
I think everyone listening knows that feeling. You're maybe scrolling through social media or just staring at your calendar, and that question hits you. Where did all my friends go? Or maybe you feel like you're desperately clinging to an old group chat, a dynamic that hasn't actually worked for years.
Right, trying to force it.
Or you just feel completely unsure about where you even stand with people who used to be like fundamental figures in your life. That loneliness, that sense of loss, it's incredibly real.
And the really important insight from all the research we looked at is this. The struggle exists because most of us, we approach adult friendship exactly the same way we did when we were kids.
How so?
Well, we just sort of expect friendships to happen organically. We assume that the infrastructure, the support system that held those early bonds together is somehow still magically in place.
But that's the trap, isn't it? Because the social dynamics, they change dramatically once you step into adulthood.
Completely.
And because nobody hands you a manual, there's no required class on Adult Social Logistics 101.
If only.
Right. Nobody sees the change coming. So we're left trying to fit this square peg of mature, scattered, demanding adult life into the round hole of childhood friendship expectations. It just doesn't fit.
Exactly. So today, our mission, our deep dive, is really about offering a comprehensive and, more importantly, a proactive solution to this challenge.
Okay.
We're diving deep into a philosophy that honestly provides a massive relief valve for all the stress. It's called the let them theory.
The let them theory.
Okay. And we're going to show you exactly how you can apply it to build connections that are, healthier, definitely more resilient, and hopefully completely free from those forced expectations or unnecessary drama.
Okay, I like the sound of that. But before we unpack the how, maybe we need to set the philosophical stage.
Good idea. There's a quote often attributed to Mel Robbins that really captures the essence here.
Okay.
The core insight is simply this. The better your relationships will be, the more you let people be who they are.
Let people be who they are.
That simple idea, letting go of your need to control their timeline, their behavior, their choices, that is the key to unlocking genuine peace in your adult friendships.
Okay, that feels profound already.
Yeah.
So let's unpack this journey. Where does the problem actually start?
Right. So if we really want to move forward, build those healthy adult connections, we first have to understand the structural trauma, you could almost call it, that happens around our 20s. We need to look back at what we were calling the childhood model or, the group sport phase of friendship.
It's kind of amazing when you think about it, how much structure we just took for granted back then.
Oh, absolutely.
When you were younger, like those first 20 years or so, your friendships weren't really built on your personal effort alone, were they?
Not at all.
They were built on this foundation of guaranteed institutional support, even parental support.
Totally. The structure was completely planned for you. I mean, think about the shared infrastructure.
Right.
The school system itself, college dorms, fraternities, sororities. Sports teams, extracurriculars, even parents coordinating every single playdate or birthday party when you were little. You were essentially force-fed social interaction.
Yeah, you didn't have to seek it out. And that structure, it provided two crucial things for bonding, didn't it? Guaranteed proximity and guaranteed pace.
Exactly. Proximity and pace, everyone you knew was quite literally on the same timeline.
Same daily routine, same school breaks, same summer vacations.
Yep. Everyone hitting the same milestones around the same time, birthdays, learning to drive, graduation, it was all synchronized.
And that creates this really deep subconscious feeling, right? Like you're all moving through life together as this organized team.
You were naturally part of the group. And because of that built-in proximity, that constant contact, you had this low-level constant expectation that you'd just be invited to everything.
Yeah, FOMO wasn't really the same kind of beast back then.
No. Friendship felt easy because the structure literally guaranteed you saw everyone all the time without even trying.
And that sheer abundance of shared constant time, plus all those shared experiences, good and bad, made it incredibly simple, almost effortless, not just to make friends, but to forge really deep bonds.
Bonds fortified by trust, shared history, constant exposure.
It's a beautiful system in a way, but the downside is it trains us, kind of incorrectly, to believe that friendship is inherently automatic, that it just happens.
And then, boom, you hit your 20s, maybe early 20s, and the bottom just falls out. This is what the source material calls the Great Scattering.
The Great Scattering. It feels like an instant, doesn't it? The structural supports just vanish. High school ends, college ends.
Poof, gone.
And those friends you spend every day with, they scatter geographically first, across states, sometimes continents.
And then chronologically. Suddenly, everyone's on totally different timelines. One friend is deep in grad school, pulling all-nighters.
Another one's getting married, starting a family.
A third is, I don't know, backpacking through Asia.
Right. They're all pursuing completely different milestones at dramatically different paces.
Yeah.
And that shared structure that held you all together, it's just gone.
Completely gone.
What I found really fascinating in the sources was how they frame the emotional impact of this. It's not just logistical.
No, it's huge emotionally.
The loss of that structure creates this massive, almost existential loss of control. There's no predefined track anymore. No template telling you what you're supposed to do next or when.
Right. Your adult life has truly begun, and suddenly you are solely responsible for choosing everything. Where to live, what job to take.
And crucially, who you're going to invest your very limited social energy and time with. That choice becomes active, not passive.
And the fallout from that loss of control, it's predictable and, frankly, pretty painful for most people.
Yeah. Those close friends who moved away, they start to feel distant. Communication gets harder.
Everyone's calendar becomes this impossible jigsaw puzzle. Trying to get the whole old group together for just one dinner feels like you're managing an international peace summit.
Totally. And that group text chain, the one that used to be buzzing constantly, holding the whole squad together.
Yep, it gets quieter and quieter over time.
The shared framework has vanished, and that's when the real loneliness can hit. You feel out of control, maybe insecure.
And what's the natural emotional reaction? To cling, or as the sources vividly put it, to grip harder onto the relationships you have left.
Trying desperately to force them back into that old comfortable group sport model that just doesn't exist anymore.
Exactly. But what's so critical for you listening to understand is that this great scattering, it's not a unique one-time trauma that only happens after graduation.
Yeah, good point.
It's a completely normal repeating cycle throughout your entire adult life. It's relentless in a way, and it demands constant flexibility from us.
It really is cyclical. You might find some stability, maybe a new friend group emerges after college, but then the scattering hits again.
Yep. When your single friends start getting married, their priorities shift dramatically. They scatter from the single crowd.
When friends start having kids, oh man, they scatter instantly. Their world, understandably, revolves around something totally new.
When people move maybe out of the city to the suburbs for schools or a different job, they scatter.
And this pattern absolutely keeps going into later life, too.
For sure. When people become empty nesters, their focus might shift. If they go through divorce, their social circle often changes completely.
Downsizing, retirement, experiencing a significant loss. All these life events reshape the social landscape.
The underlying structural pillars, proximity, timing, shared experience, they are constantly moving beneath our feet. So people scatter again and again.
So the core takeaway here is actually kind of liberating if you can embrace it. Realizing that this shifting, this scattering, it's an unavoidable systemic outcome of adult life. It's baked into the cake.
It's not a personal failure. Not yours, not theirs.
Exactly. But, and this is the kicker, because adult friendships naturally ebb and flow, expecting them to be rigid, expecting them to always stay the same.
That will absolutely destroy the friendship. And probably destroy your peace of mind in the process.
Okay, so that understanding that the ground beneath our friendships is constantly shifting, that leads us directly to the solution, right?
Exactly. The rigidity trying to maintain those childhood expectations, like always being invited, always being prioritized, always clicking, that's what generates so much of the misery.
Yeah, the anxiety, the resentment.
Precisely. So the solution has to be proactive and flexible. And that's where the let them theory comes in.
Okay, explain that, because just letting them sounds passive, maybe even a bit defeatist at first glance.
It might sound like that, but it's actually incredibly active internally. It's about where you direct your energy. If you're constantly monitoring a text thread, feeling left out.
Or trying to guilt someone into matching your schedule, or, maintaining the exact level of intensity the relationship had 5 years ago.
Right. You're going to burn out.
Yeah.
That level of trying to control things outside your control is exhausting. The only path to resilience, to peace, is a conscious mental release.
Okay, so it's a mindset shift.
It's a core mindset shift. It involves applying this let them idea directly to managing those really tough feelings, the exclusion, the loss, the insecurity that the scattering inevitably brings up.
You have to actively choose to let go of the control you never really had in the first place, control over someone else's time, their priorities, their choices.
Exactly. And this is where we get into the really practical, actionable phrases. Things you literally tell yourself, maybe even out loud at first, to represent that necessary mental release.
Okay, let's hear some examples.
All right. Say a really close friend announces they're moving 3 states away for a dream job, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Okay, initial reaction might be panic, sadness, maybe even a little resentment, like, how could you leave?
Right. Instead of focusing on your loss or making them feel guilty, you consciously decide to say to yourself, let them move away. You honor their decision, their path, without making it solely about how it impacts you.
Okay, let them move away. I can see how that shifts the focus. What's another one?
All right, you see their social media feed, and they're clearly spending every weekend with a brand new crew, new neighbors, maybe colleagues, people from their new pottery class, whatever.
And the little pang of, why wasn't I invited, or have they replaced me, hits.
Exactly. Instead of spiraling, you choose to internalize. Let them prioritize their new friends.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, but it's not passive acceptance like, oh, well. It's an active choice to stop expecting to be their only primary social connection. People have room for multiple circles.
Okay, so let them prioritize new friends. What about when people just seem busy?
Ah, the classic fade. You reach out a couple of times, maybe suggest getting together, and they just stop calling back. Or they give vague excuses. Oh, just swamped. Maybe they have a demanding new partner or a huge project at work.
Yeah.
You decide. Let them not have time for me. You release the expectation that they owe you that time right now. Their capacity might just be 0.
Let them not have time for me. Okay. And the digital silence, that waiting game.
Ugh, yes. You find yourself checking your phone constantly, waiting for that text back, that reply that just never comes.
It's maddening.
It is. So you tell yourself, let them not text me. You free yourself from that digital tyranny, that constant checking and waiting for a response that might never materialize simply because they're in a completely different life phase or headspace.
Let them not text me. And maybe the most painful one, especially now with social media everywhere.
Yeah.
Seeing the photos, the group outing, maybe people from your old circle even, getting together for brunch or drinks, and you definitely weren't invited.
Ouch. That stings.
It really does.
The only path to maintaining your own equilibrium, your own peace, is to consciously decide, let them not include me. Or even more specifically, let them go to brunch without me.
Okay, but I have to push back here a little.
Oh.
Because saying, let them not include me, couldn't that just be like a mask for bitterness or resentment? How do we make sure this isn't just becoming passive-aggressive or building walls?
That is such an essential distinction. It really comes down to the underlying intent and the energy behind it.
Okay.
If you're saying, let them, but inside you're stewing, replaying the perceived slight, feeling bitter, then yeah, you're still actively expending emotional energy on that situation. It's just negative energy now. You haven't truly let go.
So what does true acceptance look like then?
True acceptance means recognizing that the exclusion or the distance is very likely a sign of those mismatched pillars we're going to talk about, probably proximity or timing. It's likely not a personal judgment on your worth or character.
So it's less about pretending you don't care and more about reclaiming the emotional energy that was previously getting wasted on anxiety, resentment, or trying to force things.
Precisely. You are empowering yourself to control your reaction because that's the only thing you can control. You can't control their behavior, their choices, their guest list. When you truly let go in this way, you stop spending precious energy monitoring them, analyzing their motives, or trying to manipulate the friendship back into shape. You're effectively closing that draining emotional loop.
And that is the huge, immediate payoff for you, the listener.
Yes.
When you stop expecting to be invited to everything, when you stop expecting to instantly click with every single person you meet, and crucially, when you stop gripping onto these old versions of relationships that have naturally evolved or faded,
Adult friendship becomes dramatically easier, lighter.
it frees up so much mental and emotional energy. Energy you can then focus on the people who do match your current chapter, who do have the time and energy for you right now.
It transitions you from mourning the past or being anxious about the present to actively building the future you want.
Okay, so to really embrace this let them theory and not let it become bitterness,
Mm.
we need a framework, right? A
Yeah.
vocabulary for why friendships drift. That isn't just, they don't like me anymore.
Exactly, because it's almost never about intentional conflict or some deep personal character failure on either side. It's usually about the underlying structural foundation of the relationship.
And that foundation, according to the research, consists of three invisible factors, three pillars that friendships are really built on.
That's right. Proximity, timing, and energy.
Proximity, timing, energy.
When,
Okay.
when adult friendships fade or fall apart or just lose touch, it's almost always because one, or sometimes more, of these three pillars has gotten seriously weakened. Or maybe it's missing entirely.
And this is such a vital point because it reinforces that core idea we keep coming back to. Most of the time, the drifting isn't personal.
No, it's logistical, it's structural, it's external factors at play.
Okay, let's break them down. Pillar one, proximity.
This one seems the most obvious, but the details are fascinating. Proximity is simply how often you are physically near someone.
Being in the same space.
Right, because being in the same space naturally increases the amount of time you spend together.
Yeah.
And time spent together is essentially the fuel required to build deeper bonds.
You need the hours.
You absolutely need the hours. And this is where that quantitative data from the University of Kansas study becomes so incredibly instructive. They actually tried to quantify the hours required to move relationships through different stages of closeness.
Okay, let's dive into those numbers because they really are staggering when you compare them to the reality of modern adult life.
They are. The research suggested that just to become a casual friend, someone you might grab coffee with occasionally, an acquaintance you actually enjoy,
Yeah.
you need to spend approximately 74 hours with that person.
74 hours just for casual. Okay, what about close friends?
Yeah, to achieve that designation of a true close friend, someone you'd rely on, someone you feel deeply connected to, the time investment jumps up significantly. You need to have logged over 200 hours of shared time with that individual.
Wow, over 200 hours. Now, let's put that number 200 hours into context. Let's think back to that group sport era we talked about, high school, college.
Right. Back then, we probably clocked 200 hours with our closest friends every, 5 or 6 weeks?
Easily. It was effortless. You lived with them or down the hall. You ate meals together, studied together, partied together, went to class together, often involuntarily.
Exactly. That incredibly high degree of shared, constant, often unintentional proximity allowed for this rapid accumulation of shared history, inside jokes, moments of vulnerability, building trust.
It made deep bonding almost automatic. The system provided the hours.
But now, contrast that with adult life. Everyone's scattered, working different shifts, juggling families, long commutes.
Trying to get 200 hours with a new potential close friend? That requires serious, highly intentional effort.
Do the math. 200 hours. That's like 54-hour dinners.
Or 100 two-hour coffee dates.
It's an enormous proactive investment of your most precious resource, time.
Which brings us to that great paradox of adult social life you mentioned earlier, tied to the American Time Use Survey data.
Ah, yes, the American Time Use Survey. Scientists crunching the numbers on how we actually spend our days, and they found a truly shocking statistic.
Brace yourselves for this one.
From the ages of 21 through 60, the average person will spend more time with their coworkers than they will with their family and friends combined.
Let that sink in. More time side by side with colleagues than with partners, kids, parents, best friends combined.
It stops you cold, doesn't it? We spend the vast majority of our waking adult lives literally adjacent to our professional colleagues. Proximity is completely guaranteed in the workplace.
So based on pillar one, we should all be best friends with everyone in our office.
If only it were that simple. This is often where the proximity pillar hits a major snag because the other pillars are usually missing at work.
Okay, so proximity is necessary but not sufficient.
Exactly. And that leads us directly to pillar number 2.
Pillar two, timing. What does that mean in this context?
Timing refers to being in the same major chapter or life stage as someone else. if you aren't sharing, broadly speaking, the same kinds of life experiences right now.
Even if you're physically close, like at work.
Exactly. Even with high proximity, it's much harder to relate beyond superficial conversation. Your core priorities, your daily challenges, your weekend plans, they're just too divergent.
Okay, so this explains the coworker proximity conflict perfectly. You've got massive proximity, maybe 40, 50 hours a week side by side.
More proximity than almost anyone else in your life.
But everyone's in a totally different chapter. The majority of people you spend the most physical time with are not navigating the same period of life as you are.
Right. We saw a great anecdote illustrating this in the source material. It was about a young woman, maybe early 20s, just starting her career.
Okay.
Loved her team, respected her colleagues, but she'd go to those Monday morning break the ice meetings.
Ugh, those meetings.
Right. And the questions were always focused on things like, how are your kids doing? Or any fun plans for retirement savings? Or how was fixing the leaky faucet this weekend?
Things completely irrelevant to her life stage.
Totally. She felt this weird internal pressure. Everyone else was sharing stories about family trips, buying houses, their kids' soccer game.
While she was focused on, what, trying to pay off student loans and figuring out where she and her single girlfriends were going out that weekend.
Exactly. Maybe getting a little too wild, which is definitely not something you share with your middle-aged boss who's focused on college funds.
The timing was completely off. The
Yeah.
shared experience was incredibly narrow, just the work itself.
They couldn't bridge that gap to hanging out after work, not really, because their life chapters and central goals were just too different. A coworker stressed about their teenager's college applications simply doesn't have the bandwidth, or frankly the shared interest, for a spontaneous Friday night bar crawl.
It makes sense, and it extends beyond just age, too, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Think about the friend who gets super invested in, say, marathon training and strict clean eating.
Versus the friend who is still fully committed to a late-night, party-centric lifestyle.
They might still love each other, but scheduling time together, finding activities they both enjoy, it becomes nearly impossible because their priorities, their current chapters, are fundamentally opposed in that moment.
Okay. What about significant age gaps outside of work?
Yeah, the sources mention that too. You might adore, say, family friends who are 15 or 20 years older, wonderful people, maybe they're grandparents now.
You enjoy their company at holidays or occasional dinners?
Immensely. But that friendship can likely only go so deep because the timing is just too different. They aren't looking for those intense 200 shared hours you might need to build a close bond. And your central life challenges, maybe navigating early career stress, dating apps, first-time parenting, are completely different from theirs, which might be retirement planning or grandparenting.
Okay. So the crucial realization here, again, is that proximity and timing are largely structural factors. They often transcend personality or how much you like someone.
Exactly. And when we really internalize this, it reinforces that idea.
Yeah.
None of this is personal.
Distance in adult friendship is rarely malice. It's overwhelmingly just mismatched logistics, dictated by these first two invisible pillars.
And understanding that is what allows the let them theory to truly loosen its grip, to feel like acceptance rather than resignation.
Okay, so we have proximity needing the time together. We have timing being in a similar life chapter. What's the third pillar?
The third pillar is energy. And this one is the most intangible, the hardest to define, but arguably the most vital.
Energy, like vibes.
Kind of. It's that inexplicable click you feel with certain people. It tells you the relationship is flowing. It feels effortless, maybe even energizing.
You just get each other.
Right. You either have that easy energy with someone or you don't. You can't really scientifically explain it. You can't force it, but you absolutely have to trust that feeling. The energy is either on or it's off.
Mm-hmm. Trust your gut on the connection.
Exactly. And here's the really hard truth about energy, especially in long-term friendships.
Yeah.
It is not static.
It can change.
It shifts, sometimes dramatically, over time. Why? Because you are not static, and the people in your life aren't static either.
We're constantly growing, changing, adapting. Our priorities evolve.
We become new versions of ourselves over the years, and that's a fundamentally good thing. Personal growth is good, but it inevitably means the dynamic, the click, the energy between you and even a long-term friend will likely change as well.
Okay, example.
Think back to that college roommate scenario we touched on earlier. Maybe you lived with 5 friends, the connection was electric, nonstop fun, best time of your life.
Yeah, the glory days.
Right. But then graduation happens, and you and maybe 2 of them decide, we can't let this end. Let's get an apartment together. You move in, fully expecting that same magic, that same energy to continue seamlessly.
Makes sense. You want to keep the good times rolling.
But within, say, 4 months, the energy just feels off. It's awkward. Maybe they're obsessed with dating and you're pouring everything into your new job, or vice versa.
The things that originally bonded you, that specific shared college experience, the same schedule, the same goals, they're gone now.
Exactly. The forced proximity might still be there because you share a lease, but the energy, it's shifted. The click isn't clicking anymore.
And that feels bad. Like something's wrong.
It feels bad, but it's actually completely normal. It's evidence that personal growth is happening on both sides. The mistake we make is obsessing over what went wrong, or worse, trying to force the friendship back into that rigid, old dynamic that doesn't fit anymore.
Instead of forcing, what should we do?
Pivot towards acceptance, towards kindness, towards simple admiration for the person they're becoming in their new phase, even if that phase doesn't include you as intensely as the previous one did.
Just because you were inseparable during one stage of life doesn't mean you must be or even can be during the next one.
Precisely. And that's why the sources we looked at expressed such strong caution, almost a dislike, for using the term best friend so rigidly in adulthood.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is the label best friend potentially detrimental?
Because it often places immense undue pressure and this really rigid expectation on a relationship. The label itself seems to demand a certain level of priority, a certain intensity, that very rigidity we talked about fighting against.
In the adult world, with the great scattering and the constant demands on proximity and timing, often just can't sustain that level of demanded intensity across the board.
Exactly. Friendships need room to breathe, to grow, sometimes contract, and evolve naturally. The label best friend can sometimes feel like it's trying to lock a relationship into an unchanging hierarchy, which isn't realistic.
So we need to learn to trust that feeling when the energy shifts.
We absolutely do. You can usually tell when a friendship is being forced, can't you? It starts to feel draining.
Yeah, like you feel exhausted before you even send the text to try and make plans.
Right. Or the conversations feel strained, awkward. You feel like you're doing all the work, carrying the entire relationship on your back.
Mm-hmm. And we often grip onto those forced friendships. Why? Out of habit, inertia, fear of loneliness.
All of the above. And often there's this underlying knowledge that the second we stop putting in all that effort, the relationship will inevitably just fade away.
Yeah.
But we must trust that feeling, that energy drain, and allow the fade to happen. Sometimes gracefully, sometimes just letting it go. The source material really echoes that classic wisdom here. People come into your life for a season, for a specific reason, or maybe, if all pillars align consistently, for a lifetime.
And when someone drifts, when the energy shifts,
Yeah.
you don't need to make them an enemy.
Absolutely not.
You don't need dramatic closure or a big confrontation about why things changed.
Usually, no. You accept the change, you accept their growth and yours, and you simply let them.
Because gripping harder only makes things worse. It prolongs the anxiety, prevents you from seeing reality clearly.
And it stops you from putting your energy into forming new, vibrant connections where the pillars, proximity, timing, and energy are actually aligned for you right now. Hashtag outtag outro.
Okay.
So let's try and bring all these insights home, tie together the understanding we've hopefully built during this deep dive.
Let's recap. We started by acknowledging the universal pain point. Adult friendship is hard. And it stems largely from that fundamental transition out of the easy, structured childhood group sport model.
Into the logistical chaos, the reality of the great scattering in adulthood.
We learned that expecting friendship to stay rigid, to look exactly like it did when we were younger, that's a recipe for disappointment.
And the resilient solution, the path to less stress, is adopting that flexible let-them mindset, giving ourselves permission really to release our tight grip on expectations about always being included, always being prioritized, always clicking.
And that freedom, that release, allows us to focus our limited energy much more constructively.
Exactly. And finally, we gain the vocabulary, the framework, to truly depersonalize the shifts and fades in our relationships. We did that by understanding those 3 non-personal pillars.
Proximity, the need for that significant time investment, those 200 hours for closeness.
Timing, the crucial factor of being in the same general chapter of life.
And energy, that vital but naturally shifting click or connection you feel.
And recognizing that when these pillars weaken or fail, the friendship naturally fades. And that's usually just life logistics. It's structure. It's not a personal failure or a rejection of who you are.
Honestly, just understanding this makes adult life feel immensely less lonely. When you realize everyone, your old friends who drifted, your current acquaintances, everyone is grappling with these same logistical challenges.
The scattering is just life. The shifting pillars are just life. And acceptance, coupled with the let them mindset, is the antidote to the anxiety it can cause.
Okay, so as we wrap up, here's our final provocative thought for you to chew on this week. It builds directly on that startling data about time allocation we discussed.
Right. We need to revisit that American Time Use survey fact one more time. Ages 21 through 60. You spend more time physically near your coworkers than your friends and family combined.
Okay, so proximity is basically guaranteed in the workplace. Pillar 1 is often met, at least physically.
But if we know that deep, close friendship requires upwards of 200 intentional hours.
And we know that proximity alone isn't enough at work, because the timing, life chapter, is often wildly off.
Then that means the only time we truly have left that precious, limited non-work time, that's the only window we have to proactively find and cultivate the other two essential pillars, timing and energy.
Wow. Okay, so think about the difference between the accidental friendships of youth, guaranteed by the group sport model.
And the truly intentional friendships required now. If you're exhausted after work and you spend your limited non-work hours just recuperating, maybe scrolling, watching TV.
Which is totally understandable.
Totally. But if that's all you do, you might be meeting zero pillars outside of the workplace proximity.
So the question to ask yourself is, how can you use your limited non-work time more wisely, more intentionally, to actively seek out people who share your current life chapter? People with whom you feel that genuine energy click.
Instead of just passively hoping those connections accidentally appear like they used to, how intentional are you actually being about investing those crucial 200 hours?
That intentionality, that active search for timing and energy, that's the proactive step that logically follows the graceful acceptance of the let them theory.
That really is the ultimate application of this whole philosophy, isn't it? Letting go of what you cannot control, other people's schedules, their priorities, the inevitability of the scattering.
So that you can fiercely and intentionally focus your precious time and energy on cultivating the connections that are aligned with your present moment, your current chapter, your authentic energy.
Find your people for now.
Thanks for joining us for The Deep Dive.